persons sitting on the dais, Attorney General Shri Venkatramani, my friend and the President of ICCR, Dr. Dnyaneshwar, आज के संयोजक Shri Nitin Sharma and Mr. Gogna and others who are connected with these organizations. My former colleague in NHRC, Jyotika Kalra, is herself a champion of human rights and women's rights. So it's nice to see you all. Good morning. I think Nitinji has really, Vinayji has really created a wonderful framework for discussion. If I have my way, I would like to turn the title of the proposition upside down. That is human values as human rights. Not so much as human rights as human values. The reason is, languages have come first. Grammar has been defined later. पहले अंतःकरण है, फिर व्याकरण. व्याकरण बाद में आता है. So human rights is a fairly recent origin. Human rights and its implementation, these concepts have been actually being discussed for centuries, if not several millennia. In our own culture, we have this very interesting phrase of Ramaraj, which is nothing but a concept of good governance, which is nothing but a governance based on values, which is nothing in turn that takes away the importance of human rights. This linkage is very important because sometimes the blatant westernization has created this impression that this human rights is a big gift from the white man to the world. We need to dispel that notion in our own way without being too much gloating over our achievements. We have to be realistic. Good for us is India now is at a particular point in its history, is assertive, is really shedding very fast the last remains, if I may say, layers of the slavery that came to our minds because of primarily colonialism. We are now truly becoming, I think, independent, open in our mind. That doesn't mean we can't, we are perfect and that we can't make mistakes. Even Ramarajya is not a perfect concept. Shambhuka was killed because he tried to do penance. Democracies can also be a very faulty. It's the best among the available options. That doesn't mean we are perfect. So it's important, therefore, to see human rights in a particular perspective. It's been there in various ways. If you see Mahabharata, there are concepts of good governance and bad governance divided left and right. And if you actually read Bhagavad Gita, which really the dialogue that happened, is a discourse of what is good, what is bad, what is permissible, what is not permissible. Can we kill Arjun right now when he is, Karan right now when he is, not very alert because of the problems he's having with chariot? Things like that. So essentially what I would like to propose is, if you have strong value system, it's likely that we might be able to develop a strong human rights kavach protection framework. UDHR is of recent origin, and why did it happen? Universal Declaration of Human Rights essentially happened because the Western countries unleashed unprecedented violence on the world. Second World War, First World War, we don't talk of it much. But these were unprecedented violent incidents where millions perished. Now, there was a sense at the end of the war that this should not happen again. Actually, that is the origin of UDHR. It's not great thought that we need to create an ideal world where everybody would be equal. It's really managing the affairs from the point of view of violence, not from the point of view of creating peace. So what you see today is really in our own world, inequalities persist. Inequalities of power persist, inequalities of technology persist, inequality of economic perspective. When we talk about human rights in the national context, well, we can discuss the law, the provisions, the implementation. But unless we have this broader, conceptual framework, we may not be able to address proper human rights, even in a specific context of a national human rights discourse. But our contribution even in UDHR at its very primitive stage was enormous. And I must say, we should salute our ladies, the two women, Hansa Mehta and Lakshmi Menon. Hansa Mehta and Lakshmi Menon, who participated, actually gave it a revolutionary twist. Hansa Mehta changed the word, all are born free and equal, all men are born. She inserted the word human beings. All human beings are born free and equal. And Lakshmi Menon fought so that the rights of women and men are not differentiated. And she ensured that there is no discrimination in the entire draft on the basis of sex. Very, very revolutionary contribution. So you can see that even at that early stage in our constitution formation, we were fairly evolved in at least conceptual side. This was certainly reflected in our constitution, where we have enshrined very beautifully all the provisions. And these provisions have not come easily. They have come because of hundreds of years of thinking and mulling over, debate discourses in our own past. That's why we have been able to crystallize all these thoughts in our constitution. And today, what we are deriving is everything from that really strength. So it's very important that democracies are not infallible, to remember that they're not infallible. It's also important that that the true price of freedom is eternal vigilance. That vigilance about human rights is extremely important if you really want to go forward. Whenever you see the human value system is weaker, then the human rights implementation, execution will be going down. You will see that. Well, let's say some of the things that are happening around us right now. For example, if we see we can't hold free dialogue, we must go for the reasons. Can we talk with everyone on every topic around us? Sometimes we do feel constrained, at least I feel. So we have freedom of expression, freedom of speech. Nevertheless, we have constraints. Inequality, what are like the Act, Protection of Human Rights Act has these four fundamentals: right to live, right to liberty, right to dignity, and equality. Today, can we have dignity for every Indian, everywhere, all the times? No. Can we have equality everywhere, of every individual, all the times? No. Well, even practically it is not possible, but are we really inching towards that? Economic progress, commendable. We are on a really, truly great course. Is it sustainable? Is it desirable? Is the model questioned again and again or not? Shouldn't we question it? Are we accepting blindly the model that has been given to us? Because in the human rights, economic and civil, social rights are as important as political and civil rights. So I think it's very important, and we fortunately have had great incidents to quote from the past. We are truly, in a sense, look at the world as one family, much before the globalization came. We all know about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? We also have in regional languages saints like Dnyaneshwar, whose name I awkwardly carry. He's saying, "Hey Vishwachi Mashe Ghar." He says, he goes a step forward and he says, the whole house, the whole universe is my house, my home. So we have that very evolved thought. In fact, I was in Tokyo, and I always remember as an incident of how deeply Indians have had this heritage of thinking. In Tokyo trial, Radha Vinod Pal was one of the justices. And he very clearly said, I'm not quoting it, but these are his expressions, somehow I'm giving in general terms. He says, victor's justice is no justice. And people fighting on behalf of their country cannot be held responsible for war crimes. I think only an Indian or somebody who has been brought up in an Indian ethos could have said those kind of things. It would not have come by rough thinking about winner and loser, and winner should have, winner should take it off. So this is very important. In very recent times, our vaccine diplomacy, I call it essentially a great gesture of human rights protection at a global level by India. The reason is, we have had our own problems in the past. Nevertheless, almost 23 crores vaccines were exported from India to 98 countries. This is something, this is the spirit that has to come at societal level, it has to come at family level, it has to come in organizational level. Then perhaps we'll be able to use our wings that have been given to us by the economic strength fully. Because ultimately, Honorable Prime Minister wants our country to be the Vishwaguru. How do we attain? That's a question that always I ask myself also. What is the way? The way is really world should see India as a model democracy that is really on the right path, whether it is SDGs, whether it is human rights, whether it is being positive in its approach to long-term questions, short-term questions, immediate questions also. Can we create such a uniform national vision, taking into account everybody that we have? We have, say, like I mentioned earlier about war mentality. In this country, there has been a peace mentality. Let's take Buddha. The way he renounced the house, his palace, the whole thinking is behind that. Let's take the example of Ashok. What a great example to propound as a peace. Somebody who was just said at the end of a victory in a war that no more war. This has really brought a lot of misery. This is recognizing the dignity, recognizing the evil forces of destruction and violence, and then changing the course. This is an amazing example. And of course, in the recent past, we have had Mahatma Gandhi, who obviously, having this great legacy of Buddha and Ashoka and others, he was able to really articulate it in the modern sense. He was the first one to talk on behalf of Palestinians. We similarly have had a great tradition of dialogue, whether it is panchayat system, whether it is pinde pinde matir vinna kunde kunde navampaya, that everybody has a different view, different outlook, different thinking, and we should take it into consideration. That's really very, very democratic. So, all in all, what I want to say is, if you have honesty as a value propagated, practiced in society, it will automatically bring honesty in implementation of human rights in our country. Similarly, let's take in nature. The environment and climate has become a big issue. And right to environment is one of the human rights now. The latest right to environment, right to business, human rights in sports. These are the latest themes that have come to human rights discourse. How will we improve our environment? See the deterioration of water bodies just in Delhi. All of us really should be ashamed. The way the water bodies have disappeared in this great capital of India. Absolutely, and that is not happening only with Ganges and Yamuna, Ganga and Yamuna. It's happening in my village, Panchaganga, where I played. I cannot enter the river anymore. Same is happening in Pune, Mulay rivers. They have become gutters. So I'm told that human rights now has to be curtailed. Other people's rights are being affected. So right to speech, with reasonable limits. So thank you very much. What I would like to say in the end is, we all light the lamp before every function. It is just to remind that ek ne ek shamma hamesha jalaye rakhein. That is the message. Jyot se jyot jalate chalo, pyar ki ganga bahate chalo. That is the value. Those are the human rights. Thank you so much.